Winter fog rolled over the hills as Clara Whitmore's carriage approached Ravenscroft Manor. The manor loomed in the distance like a sleeping giant, its towers shrouded in mist and shadow. The iron gates, rusted yet intricately wrought, screeched as they opened to admit her. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine, half from cold, half from the weight of anticipation. She had never seen the estate before. The letters from the lawyer had been precise and cold. She was the last of the Whitmore line, and the manor was hers. Yet now, standing at the threshold, the grandeur of the house was tainted by decay. Windows gaped like hollow eyes. The roof sagged under years of snow and neglect, and the walls bore the stains of rain that had seeped in for decades. Clara dismounted, her boots crunching on frost-hardened gravel. The air smelled of damp earth and rotting leaves. Every sound seemed amplified. The distant call of a crow, the scraping of tree branches against stone, even the low groan of the manor itself as it settled in the cold morning. Pushing open the massive oak door, Clara stepped into the foyer. Dust motes danced in the narrow beams of light that filtered through cracked windows. The walls were lined with portraits, ancestors staring down at her with frozen eyes and severe expressions. Each canvas seemed to judge her, measuring whether she was worthy to walk these halls. A draft stirred the fireplace ashes, and Clara's candle flickered. She felt an uneasy sensation, as if invisible eyes were tracking her. Somewhere deep in the house, a grandfather clock struck the hour. Its sound, hollow and resonant, echoing through the empty corridors. The manor was alive in its own way, breathing memories that had not been touched in decades. Clara stepped further into the foyer, her candle casting trembling light on the ornate walls. Dust hung thick in the air, settling on her eyelashes and the edges of her coat. The portrait seemed almost alive, the eyes of her ancestors following her every movement. A man in a dark coat and stern expression caught her gaze. His eyes, though painted, felt accusatory. She quickly looked away. But the sensation lingered. The floor beneath her feet creaked, each step announcing her presence in the silent house. She noticed the smell, a mix of rotting wood, damp stone, and something faintly floral, like decayed roses. The house exhaled these scents in waves, each one heavier than the last. Clara shivered, but curiosity pressed her forward. She moved toward the grand staircase, its carved balusters coated in decades of dust. As she ascended, the portraits lining the walls seemed to shift slightly, shadows stretching where there should have been none. A cold draft brushed her cheek, carrying a whisper so faint she almost missed it. Clara. Her heart skipped a beat. She spun around, candle held high, but the foyer was empty. Only the portraits stared back. She told herself it was the wind, but doubt lingered in the air. Yet the unease in her chest told her otherwise. At the top of the staircase, a long hallway stretched into darkness. Doors, closed and warped with age, lined each side. A faint light flickered beneath one of them. Clara hesitated. The manor seemed to watch her, urging her toward that single glowing doorway. The air felt heavier here, colder, and the whispers returned, overlapping into a chorus that sent chills down her spine. I'm not supposed to be here, she murmured, though the words sounded hollow, even to her. The door at the end of the hall creaked open slowly on its own. Clara stepped forward, drawn by a force she could not explain. Inside was a study, lined with bookshelves and an enormous desk. Papers were scattered across the floor, and an inkwell had spilled, staining the wood a dark, almost sinister red. The room smelled of old parchment and iron. From the far corner of the study, a figure emerged. An elderly woman, hunched but with sharp, alert eyes, her hands gnarled but precise. She wore a dark dress, threadbare yet elegant, as if mourning and dignity were stitched into its fabric. "You've come," the woman rasped, her voice like brittle leaves. "Ravenscroft chooses who may see its truths. Few endure, fewer leave unchanged." Clara's grip tightened on her candle. I just want to understand. Why was I called here?" The woman's eyes flickered with a mix of sorrow and warning. "The manor remembers. It remembers the bloodline, the secrets, the sins." The whispers intensified, forming words Clara could almost comprehend. Remember or remain? Clara's eyes searched the dim study, candlelight quivering across the towering bookshelves. Ancient tomes leaned against each other, some bound in cracked leather, others wrapped in yellowed parchment. The smell of old ink and dust was almost suffocating. Yet beneath it lingered a strange, metallic tang, like iron. The elderly woman, Eleanor, remained in the corner, her gaze fixed on Clara with an intensity that made her stomach tighten. "These books, they hold memories," Eleanor said softly. "Not just of Ravenscroft, but of every soul who has passed through. Each word, each symbol, it is alive, waiting for the one who can read it." Clara stepped closer, her fingers brushing the edge of a large leather-bound volume. As she lifted it, the pages fluttered on their own, stopping on a passage that seemed to glow faintly in the candlelight. Her breath caught as she read, "Those who bear the blood of Ravenscroft shall walk the halls of memory, and in the echoes of the past find their fate." A sudden chill ran down her spine. The candle flickered violently, and the whispering returned, rising like a tide around her. Clara tried to focus, but the voices overlapped, pleading, warning, mourning. They seemed to come from the very walls. Eleanor's voice broke through the murmurs. "The manor does not reveal itself easily. It tests, it lures, it frightens. But you are chosen, Clara. Only you can witness what has been buried for centuries." From the shadows near the fireplace, a figure emerged, young, perhaps no older than 20, with hollow eyes and a faint glow around his pale skin. His presence was almost imperceptible at first, but the candlelight revealed the sharpness of his gaze. "I've been waiting," he said, voice echoing unnaturally in the room. "You will see what others could not. But beware, some truths cannot be unseen. Some voices cannot be silenced." Clara's pulse quickened. "Who are you?" "Thomas Ravenscroft," he replied, stepping closer. "And I am bound to this place, as you will be. The manor feeds on memory, on the sins and regrets of those it shelters." It will test your resolve, your courage, and your blood. A sudden draft swept the room, scattering papers across the floor. Clara stumbled back, candle nearly extinguished. In the reflection of the polished desk, she glimpsed something impossible. Her own face, staring back, but older, hollow-eyed, whispering a name she did not recognize. The candle steadied, and Eleanor's voice rang softly, almost like a chant. Do not fear the shadows, Clara. Fear only the silence that comes if you refuse to remember. The study seemed to pulse, the walls breathing slowly, rhythmically. Clara felt an almost magnetic pull toward a darkened corner of the room where a spiral staircase descended into unknown depths. The whispers intensified, forming coherent words. Descend, discover, endure. Her hand trembled as she reached for the railing. Every instinct screamed to stop, yet some deeper part of her, curiosity, destiny, fear, pushed her forward. The candle flickered once more, then steadied, illuminating the first step into darkness. Clara's boots echoed faintly as she stepped onto the spiral staircase, each stone worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air grew colder with every step, carrying a damp, earthy scent that mingled with the faint metallic tang she had noticed earlier. Shadows clung to the walls, twisting and shifting as if alive. The whispers followed her, growing louder, overlapping into a chorus that was almost intelligible. Names, fragments of conversations, cries of anguish, they all reached her ears at once. Clara pressed her hands to the railing, feeling the vibrations of the old stone beneath her fingertips. Halfway down, a sudden gust extinguished her candle. She froze, the darkness swallowing her completely. Heart pounding, she fumbled to relight it, her hands shaking. When the flame returned, she saw him again. Thomas Ravenscroft, his pale face emerging from the blackness. You are not alone here, he whispered, his voice echoing unnaturally. The manor watches, listens, and remembers. Every step you take, every choice you make, is noted. Clara swallowed hard. What happens if I refuse? Thomas's eyes darkened. Refusal is impossible. Ravenscroft does not forget. It does not forgive. Those who resist are absorbed into its memory. You will remain, but only as a shadow of yourself. The spiral staircase opened into a vast, underground chamber. The walls were carved from stone, etched with faces and symbols that pulsed faintly in the candlelight. Some faces appeared serene, others twisted in silent screams. Clara could feel the weight of centuries pressing down upon her. Each carved figure, a fragment of a life remembered or forgotten. At the center of the chamber was a black pool, its surface still, yet reflecting a strange silver light. The whispers converged there, forming words she could now understand. See, remember, endure. Thomas gestured toward the pool. This is the heart of Ravenscroft. Here the manor keeps its memories, its regrets, its sins. You will see what no one else can, Clara. But be warned, the deeper you look, the more you risk losing yourself. Clara stepped closer, the cold seeping through her boots into her bones. Her reflection shimmered in the water, But it was not her own face alone. Faces of children, women, and men swirled around her, eyes wide, mouths moving in silent pleas. One face, pale and familiar, reached toward her, whispering a single word, Eleonora. A shiver ran through her spine. The name felt like a memory she should have known, yet could not place. The whispers surged into a low, relentless chant, pressing against her mind, drowning out everything else. Clara realized that the manor was alive, not just with spirits, but with memory itself, and demanded a witness. Thomas stepped aside. Do you have the courage, Clara, to face what Ravenscroft has preserved for centuries? She nodded slowly, a mix of fear and determination settling over her. I want to understand. The whispers parted, revealing a narrow corridor leading further into the darkness. Clara took a deep breath and stepped forward into the heart of the manor's secrets. Clara walked down the narrow corridor, her candle flickering against the stone walls. Shadows stretched and recoiled as if alive, forming grotesque shapes that whispered her name in hollow tones. The floor was slick with moisture, and faint footprints, too small to belong to her, appeared and vanished as she moved. Along the walls, she noticed carvings, faces of men, women, and children, frozen in eternal expressions of fear or sorrow. Some were familiar. She could swear she had seen these faces in the portraits upstairs. Others were distorted beyond recognition, their mouths stretched into silent screams. A sudden sound made her freeze, a child laughing softly, high-pitched and eerie. Clara turned, but the corridor was empty. The laughter repeated, echoing from multiple directions, overlapping until it became a dissonant melody. She pressed her hands to her ears, but it only grew louder, guiding her toward a heavy wooden door at the corridor's end. Thomas appeared beside her silently. They are watching, testing. The manor measures your fear, your resolve. Go through the door. It is the only way to understand. Clara pushed open the door, revealing a nursery frozen in time. Dust covered tiny beds, toys scattered across the floor, as if abandoned mid-play. The air smelled faintly of chalk and old fabric, tinged with something metallic. Sunlight leaked through broken shutters, casting long, distorted shadows. On one of the walls, a mural depicted children holding hands in a circle, their faces eerily blank. As Clara approached, the mural seemed to move subtly, the painted figures shifting toward her. A cold breeze brushed her cheek, and the whispers returned, more insistent, forming words she could almost understand. They are waiting. Follow. Remember. Suddenly, two small hands gripped her shoulders. Clara spun, finding herself face to face with two children, Wheela and Finn. Their eyes were pale, almost translucent, yet filled with intelligence and warning. You shouldn't be here, Wheela said softly, her voice trembling, yet firm. Finn tugged at her sleeve, glancing toward the shadows. If it sees you, it will come. Clara knelt, trying to calm them. Who? What is it? The manor, Leela whispered. It remembers everything. The forgotten, the lost. We guide them. The candle flickered violently, The shadows in the nursery deepened, forming shapes that reached for Clara, grasping with elongated fingers. She realized the children were not afraid. They were protectors, guiding her through what the manor demanded she see. Following the children, Clara entered a vast chamber lined with floor-to-ceiling mirrors. The reflections multiplied infinitely, but none of them were quite right. In some, her face was older, hollow-eyed. In others, her features twisted in silent screams. The whispers intensified, echoing from every pane. Remember, endure, join. Leela stepped forward. Look carefully. The manor shows you truth through what it fears will be forgotten. Clara approached a mirror and touched the glass. Her reflection rippled, transforming into a vision of Ravenscroft's past. A woman, her hair dark and flowing, standing in this same chamber centuries ago. The woman whispered a name Clara had never heard aloud: Eleonora. Vision shifted rapidly, revealing scenes of betrayal, bloodlines torn apart, children vanished, and ancestors kneeling before dark rituals. Clara staggered back, her candle shaking. The chamber seemed to breathe around her, the mirrors stretching into corridors of infinite memory. Thomas's voice echoed from the shadows. Every reflection holds a story. Some truths are unbearable, yet you must witness them. Only then can you understand your place. Clara's heart pounded. What happens if I fail? The mirrors flickered, and hundreds of ghostly hands pressed against the glass, mouths opening in silent screams. Lila's hand tightened on Clara's wrist. Then you become part of the memory, and Ravenscroft forgets you, but never truly loses you. Clara followed Leela and Finn through a long, dimly lit hall. The walls were lined with tall, arched windows, broken and streaked with grime. Outside, the winter fog curled like living tendrils, obscuring the manor grounds. Each step she took echoed unnaturally, bouncing off the walls, overlapping with faint footsteps that were not her own. The whispers returned, this time distinct and urgent. Clara, remember, remember. They carried the weight of centuries, pressing into her mind. She felt as if invisible eyes were studying her, judging her responses, noting her hesitation. Thomas emerged from the shadows. The manor feeds on memory. It tests courage, curiosity, and heart. Each corridor, each room, it is a story waiting for its witness. You must face them or be consumed by the echoes. At the far end of the hall, a door stood ajar, revealing flickering candlelight. Clara's pulse quickened. She felt drawn to it, yet terrified. Leela and Fing stopped beside her, their pale faces serious. Inside, Leela said softly, you will see the first of Ravenscroft's truths. Be ready. It is not gentle. The door opened into a library that defied logic. Shelves stretched endlessly, filled with books covered in dust and cobwebs. The air smelled of parchment, mildew, and something thick
light flickered across titles written in languages Clara did not recognize, and some books seemed to pulse softly, as though alive. From somewhere in the shadows, a faint giggle echoed. Clara turned, but no one was visible. The whispering began again, clearer now, forming words she could almost make out. They waited. We waited. Remember?
A figure appeared between the shelves. A woman young yet spectral, her eyes hollow and glowing faintly. She moved silently, gliding over the floor as if weightless. "You bear the blood," she said, voice melodic yet haunting. "You will see what must not be forgotten. The manor has chosen you as its witness." Clara approached a massive book on a pedestal. As she opened it, the pages revealed scenes she could not comprehend. Ancestors performing ceremonies, children being hidden away, shadows moving without source. Her candle flickered, casting the room into near darkness. The whispers surged into a crescendo, almost deafening. Thomas stepped close. "Do not fear the visions. Fear only denial. The manor demands truth, and truth is rarely gentle." At the back of the library, a single full-length mirror stood, framed in twisted iron and etched with cryptic symbols. Clara approached it cautiously. The glass shimmered unnaturally, reflecting not just her image, but fragments of other lives, other times. Leela and Finn watched silently. "The mirror shows the past," Finn whispered. "What Ravenscroft does not want to be forgotten." Clara reached toward the glass. Instantly, her reflection rippled, showing visions of betrayal. Sorrow and lost love spanning centuries. A familiar face emerged. Eleonora, a woman from her family line long vanished. She reached out from the mirror, her eyes pleading. You remember me?" Clara whispered. The room shivered, and the mirror cracked faintly, as if acknowledging the recognition. Shadows began to crawl along the floor, reaching for the candlelight. Whispers now carried a name, repeated over and over. "Clara, witness, endure." Thomas's voice echoed from the shadows. Every reflection, every whisper, every shadow. It waits for one who can remember. You are that one. But the manor is patient. It will not allow weakness. Clara felt a pull from the mirror, magnetic and insistent. She realized that stepping back might mean leaving the truth undiscovered, yet stepping forward might demand a price she could scarcely imagine. Clara descended a narrow staircase from the library, following the whispering that now felt almost like a living pulse. At the bottom, she entered a circular chamber, walls lined with stone alcoves. Each alcove held a marble bust, faces frozen in expressions of sorrow, rage, or terror. Candle sconces flickered, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to move independently of the light. The whispers intensified. Clara, witness, endure. They came from everywhere, yet nowhere. Pressing on her chest, Leela and Finn flanked her silent. Clara's gaze fell on a bust that looked uncannily like her own mother, her eyes hollow, lips slightly parted as if she were trying to speak. A chill ran down Clara's spine. She felt a deep connection, as if the manor itself had drawn her here for this confrontation. Thomas emerged from the shadows, voice resonant and grave. Every choice Every betrayal, every secret, it lives here. And now, it tests you. Can you endure what you will see? Clara swallowed hard, stepping forward. The whispers coalesced into a single voice, low and resonant. Remember, or join. Beyond the chamber lay a massive hall, high-ceilinged and adorned with faded tapestries depicting rituals long forgotten. The air was thick, heavy with incense that had long turned to dust, and the floor was patterned with symbols etched deep into the stone. Shadows pooled along the edges, as if anticipating her every move. At the far end, a circle of candles burned faintly, their flames bluish and unnatural. In the center, a carved stone altar stood, streaked with dark stains that could have been centuries old. The whispers surged into a chorus, and Clara heard names she did not know, yet somehow recognized. Her ancestors. Lost children, the forgotten servants of Ravenscroft. Lila and Finn stepped beside her. "This is where the manor gathers its memory," Finn said softly, "where it tests who is worthy to see the truth." Clara approached the altar, feeling the cold radiate through the soles of her boots. Shadows coalesced into forms, figures half real, half imagined, reenacting moments from centuries past. Betrayals, secret romances, desperate bargains with forces unseen. Clara realized that the manor's memory was alive, conscious, and judging her. Thomas's voice sounded behind her. "You may touch the altar. You may witness. But once you do, there is no going back. The past will not release you." Clara placed her hands on the cold stone of the altar. Instantly, the chamber blurred, and she was pulled into a vision. She saw a woman with dark hair, vibrant yet sorrowful, standing in a similar hall centuries ago. This was Eleonora, an ancestor whose life had been cruelly cut short. Eleonora's voice echoed in Clara's mind. "Remember me. Do not let them be forgotten." Scenes unfolded rapidly. Children hidden in secret rooms. Servants betrayed by those they trusted. Shadows moving where no living thing should be. Every act, every sin was captured by the manor, preserved in whispers and memory. Clara felt the weight of these centuries pressing against her mind. She saw faces she recognized, some from the portraits upstairs, some only half-formed. The whispers became a roar, drowning out everything but Eleonora's plea. "Clara, bear the memory. Endure." Tears streamed down Clara's face as she realized the manor demanded a choice: to flee and leave the past unclaimed, or to accept the burden and become the living memory of Ravenscroft. Her hands trembled on the altar. Shadows pressed closer, the whispering voices stretching into the chamber like black waves. Thomas stepped forward, his eyes dark and unwavering. "The manor has chosen you. The question is, will you accept?" Clara stood before the altar, hands still resting on the cold stone. Shadows from the corners of the hall swirled around her like living smoke. The whispers reached a deafening crescendo, repeating a single command: "Remember! Endure! Become!" Eleonora's face appeared in the shifting shadows, eyes wide with desperation. "Clara, bear it, or all is lost!" Tears streamed down Clara's cheeks. Every instinct screamed to run, to leave the manor behind. But she felt a pull stronger than fear. stronger than reason, a responsibility woven into her very bloodline. She realized the manor was not a curse in itself. It was memory, preserved and burdened, demanding a witness to endure what was forgotten. She closed her eyes and whispered, "I accept." Immediately, the hall changed. Shadows surged and pressed against her. Yet she did not resist. Voices filled her mind. The lost children, betrayed servants, ancestors who had never found peace. Clara felt herself dissolving into them, yet simultaneously she held fast. Every whisper, every fragment of memory became part of her, imprinted on her mind and soul. Thomas stepped beside her, expression unreadable. "The manor recognizes you. You are now the living memory. The burden is heavy, but you are strong enough." The whisper softened, flowing into a quiet hum. Eleonora's face smiled faintly through the shadows. "Thank you for remembering." The chamber stilled. Shadows receded, pooling into the corners, leaving Clara standing alone by the altar. The oppressive weight of the past remained, but no longer suffocated her. She felt every memory, every sorrow, yet she also felt clarity. Ravenscroft's secrets, its tragedies, its betrayals, they were hers to bear, but not hers to fear. The children, Leela and Finn, appeared at her side. "You endured," Leela said softly. "Now the manor can breathe." Clara turned, gazing at the once imposing chamber. The mirrors, the portraits, the alcoves, all seemed lighter, freer, as though acknowledging her acceptance. The whispers had not vanished, but they no longer clawed at her. They flowed around her, a river of voices, finally at peace. Thomas nodded once, then faded into shadow. "You are now part of Ravenscroft, but not lost. You are its witness, its heart." Clara stepped away from the altar, her candle steady. She walked back through the halls, each step lighter than before. The manor watched silently, yet she felt no fear, only reverence and understanding. At last, Clara emerged from the manor into the early morning light. Fog still lingered over the hills, curling around the estate like a protective veil. Ravenscroft Manor stood silent behind her, imposing yet somehow softened by her endurance. She paused at the edge of the gravel path, taking a deep breath. In the stillness, she heard it, not a whisper, but a gentle echo of gratitude. The memories she now carried were hers, yet they belonged to everyone the manor had ever known. Lila and Finn appeared at her side. They did not speak, only nodded. Clara knew she had been tested and had passed, not by conquering the manor, but by accepting its truth. As she walked away, the manor receded behind the fog, no longer menacing, but solemn, like a keeper of history finally acknowledged. In the distance, the voices of Ravenscroft rose, not as cries, but as a quiet harmony of remembrance. Clara's steps were steady. She bore the weight of centuries in her heart. Yet each one strengthened her resolve. Ravenscroft had chosen her to remember, and she would never forget. The dawn broke fully over the hills, casting golden light over the manor's towers. For the first time in centuries, Ravenscroft seemed at peace. Fade to black.